The goal of the show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. We do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. We also post advertising news you need to know in 60 seconds or less on our LinkedIn. Follow us there for ad news that's unlike anything else you've ever seen before. Today, we're talking to the man, the myth, the legend. He is the person behind Dos Equis' most interesting man in the world. He's worked on Miller High Life and Arby's We Have the Meats campaign. He helped name and brand telehealth company Hims. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Jeff Kling. Today is the founder and CCO of Das Favorite over in LA. He's the former CCO at Fallon and Wieden+Kennedy, Amsterdam. He is inspired so many ad campaigns we watch today. He's worked and actually coached some of the best creative professionals who have been on this podcast or who will be on this podcast. Jeff Kling is going to sit with us. He's going to tell us how he got here and his best advice for you all to become legends as well. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Ellie. All right. Jeff Kling, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
No bullet holes. I'm doing
Not
well,
yet.
How are you? Yeah, not yet. The day
No
is
bullet
long.
holes yet. You know,
The day is long and the protests are robust.
Yeah, that's going on right now. Today is June 11th that we're recording this. So you got the Marines out there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we do. The National Guard. It's on the other side of downtown from where I am. Most of that hoo-ha. But yeah, Saturday it's going to kick off again in earnest, and I will be there with my middle finger salute.
There we go.
For the cosplay military.
There we go. Hey, you do your thing over there. Stay safe, Jeff. By the time this airs out to the world, we'll know a lot more. It'll be a couple of weeks, to a month. So we'll have to do a little check-in with you later on.
Might need to call your listenership from the pokey. See if you can spring me.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that. But Jeff, you are an industry legend, according to ChatGPT. This is funny. On your profile on LinkedIn, what did it say? Jeff Kling is a prominent figure in the advertising industry, known for his innovative and impactful work. He has held high-profile positions in several leading ad agencies, including CCO at Fallon and Wieden+Kennedy, Amsterdam. You are known, of course. I think most people should know this. I mean, I learned about this in college when I was studying advertising, the Dos Equis' most interesting man in the world campaign, and We Have the Meats. So you are a titan amongst our past guests here, Jeff. Thank you again for taking the time. We'll have to unpack all of that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Shout out ChatGPT. I really love AI. I think our overlords are great fake people, and I look forward to serving them in any way I can.
Make sure, this is going to go out on the internet. It gets fed into AI as well. So it's good. You're saying good things.
Yeah.
Where are you at today, Jeff, before we get into all that powerful stuff you've done?
We are live and direct from the iconic American Cement Building on the edge of MacArthur Park, which is between Koreatown and downtown in Los Angeles.
And you are the founder, CCO, expert alphabet rearranger at Das Favorite. Is this correct?
That's correct.
Well, what's that about? Give me the rundown about this shop here. What do you look at that? For those watching on YouTube, he's showing you around there.
Yeah. There's a lot of history to this wall, and if we run out of things to say about our favorite subject, advertising, we can get into why this 6 foot D, for example. Yeah, I think uh, the whole world is bent on satisfying an attention economy. And I believe we live in an affection economy. And what really moves the market is what people like, not what fell in front of their eyeballs and dipped into their ear holes. So that's why um, I I gave this setup the working title Das Favorite, probably the worst name and something that everybody asked me to repeat. But, my whole life, they've asked me the same of my own last name. Even my first name, which is like the most common name. I was born in that window when every American male by law in America had to be named Jeff. But you'd be surprised how many Jacks I get on my Starbucks cups and so forth. It's pleased to meet you, Jack. Um, yeah, like so. What's in a name? There are easier names to comprehend than Das Favorite, um, and apparently it's equally difficult to comprehend that we're trying to get the public to like us. We're not trying to hold them captive and talk and experiential at them.
Right.
Um, so that's what's in that name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's brands out there with big budgets that can just slam ads at everybody all the time. And there is, I think there, I don't know what the marketing science, the creative effectiveness on it's got to resonate, right? Like if you just pound the same message, even if it's a shitty message, it might stay in their brains, but they might not like it. They might have like a negative connotation towards the brand.
Well, people in my experience don't love being talked to like Labradors. So if you're saying the same thing to people over and over and over, and you're treating people like uh, what's wrong with them is what they don't know about you and your product or service, then they're not going to appreciate that very much, and they're going to tune you out. They might even get hostile toward your fates. So,
Is there a brand that comes top of mind that does that in your opinion?
I mean, almost all of them. I mean, very few. It's largely a question of media too, but it's also, if you watch one of the last vestiges of usefulness that broadcast television has is for live sports. And so if you watch sports, as I do, you can be subjected to the same ad over and over and over from a brand. And I don't even understand how that's possible. Like, or who's, I just don't get it. Why would you do that? Back in the day, at Wieden on Nike used to pull, like, this is pre-internet too, when the latest Nike thing spot would drop, and it would be, around America's water cooler, it would be like, have you seen that spot? And you needed to see it because people were talking about it and you wanted to be conversant, and they would pull it off the air before you could see it. Like, they would rather you got stuck not even having had a chance to see it than to wear out their welcome. And that was one of the many ways that brand uh, used to get people's faces pressed up against the glass. And they're the only people I know that have ever done that.
Interesting.
Like
Interesting.
maybe Apple, like, because they aired 1984 one time. Um, but yeah, everything else is just like, I can name the commercial in one note. Wingstop. And I know that there's some marketing geniuses somewhere who like think that's awesome. The fact that I can identify the brand in one note. No, not
Yeah,
always a good thing. You
I
know.
agree. I definitely agree with that. And yeah, that scarcity of kind of being in the know, but it's just so everything's so saturated nowadays, like organic social, like the paid social stuff, TV, there's digital, all these like out of homes. I live in New York. Everywhere I go, I'm getting slammed and things are screaming in my face of like, buy this or, check out this service or look at this event that's going on. It's hard to stick out in that sea, it seems like.
It is, and all the playbooks and all the ways of reaching us, they all seem very, very familiar, very tried and true, kind of boring and uninteresting. And I think we're probably on the cusp of another sort of convulsion. I mean, there's some things that will always stay the same in the way brands try to bid for people's dollar, but I think so much of our economy turns on the favor of the buying public that once they're disinterested, once they're not liking, clicking through, we got to come up with something else. And it feels like it's kind of time to do that, you know?
Interesting.
I mean,
I
from
mean,
my
I would say,
you go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if I have a product or if I'm a business owner, I think now is the best time to like probably double down on the actual product and maybe get some of that word of mouth and like focus on the core brand as well. But like instead of like these crazy media buys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm just yelling at media to get off my lawn, but there's just so many ways to diagnose what's wrong with advertising, I think. And it's it's such a it's such a low return proposition across the board. And the if you can make the whole goal of the world of apps in Silicon Valley, for example, is to make the thing that requires no advertising, and at some point they need to pay, even Facebook, when it's Zuckerberg's before Congress and so forth, they need to pay a certain amount of money to get people to think about them in a certain way. So advertising is serving that PR role with
Yeah,
which you are so versed, and that's why the French call it pub for publicité. Um, but yeah, I mean, you want to have a thing that is just so intrinsically useful that it sells itself, right? And creates a new space. But that's not always given to people, and God knows we are a country of parody products and competition. And I guess because because we have competition, you have advertising, because
always.
the like advertising is the last legal means by which you can get that advantage
Totally.
in the marketplace. But it's rarely used like that. I think when I was just a citizen subjected to advertising's product, I I've as like a student of media, I've always been shocked at how fucking horrible advertising is. And 30 years in, I don't think it's gotten any better. I think it's only gotten worse. Like more phone it in, more predictable. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think probably it's just supposed to suck, and that's the way it is.
No,
And
or they listen to you and you give them good advice. Our listeners, we got a lot of listeners, a lot of aspiring advertisers here, Jeff. They want to make good work like you
oh
did.
my God,
Like
I'm making them want to run the other way and become accountants or something. Don't let me
that.
do
Hey,
that.
listen, that's not a bad career.
Not,
That's
not
what
at
my
all.
dad wanted me to be, was an accountant. And then I started looking it up and I saw account manager at an ad agency. I was like, okay, that's close enough. But I probably
Linguistically adjacent, like,
same thing.
yeah,
Same thing.
totally the
But no,
same.
like your advice in this episode can actually help some people out here. So
I
I know
would
you
like to
worked on what's that?
I would like to do that. I would like to. I've long made it my goal to help people as I have been helped. So if I can help your listenership, I'm happy to.
Okay. Well, let's get into this then. So you have created some of the best campaigns of all time. You've been a part of them, and I have a question here, nice and easy from a listener, Ken Bates. He asks, "What is your favorite Miller High Life spot that you wrote?"
I mean, he's asking the same question as, I don't know if he's trying to make known that, or make known that I'm the writer, but that's like asking me what is my favorite Miller High Life spot, because I wrote them all. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's from time to time I just go back and think of different ones of those, and I mean that whole it was all just so strange and so wonderful and great to be able to have that trust, and freedom to play. The brief the brief for that whole the brief from Miller was make it so we don't have to discount High Life any further. Um, so
Any further? Like, we're done. No more discounts. Jeff, what do you got for us?
yeah, exactly. Anyway, that was a lot of fun, and I have to credit Jeff Williams, with, um, really co-authorship, because he and I bullshitting on set more often than not was the inspiration for most of those words and most of those spots. The Errol, the director Errol Morris calls the one line in the duct tape spot the greatest line in English language since Shakespeare, and it's, the High Life man knows that if the pharaohs had duct tape, the Sphinx would still have a nose. And that grew right out of, like, we were at this one house just shooting and shooting. We knew we wanted to shoot something with duct tape. We had a script, but Jeff Williams was talking about the desert sands blowing aside, and this the revealing the nose of the Sphinx with some duct tape on it, and it was a short leap from there to the greatest line in the English language since Shakespeare.
It's
So
incredible.
that's a long-winded way to say I really credit my friend and art director, Jeff Williams, with being a huge part of every single one of those words and every single one of those spots.
Yeah. I like that you went into it with you had an idea, you had the framework, right? Maybe something uh concept beforehand, but you left room for that magic and just like some goofing around, just bullshitting around, and that's where that idea came from. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we set out to kind of capture. Did you hear that? Damn.
Yep.
We set out to capture a world, and so when you're inside the emotional space, the headspace of that world, it's really just it's an active POV from which to regard everything, and so that's portable. And so, the aforementioned Errol used to just say, like, what else can we do here? He would location scout with an eye toward, we could shoot this here, we could shoot this there. And so we would always have this like tiny handful of scripts, which bought us the right to get some budget to go make these scripts. But we would always come back with, you know, this many. We shot almost 200 of them.
Wow. Incredible.
Um, but we had the wherewithal and certainly the desire. Um, so we did it. You can see most of them on the on Errol Morris's website. There's still a link on the front page.
Fantastic. Everybody should go check that out, and I'll put that in the intro and the show notes as well. But the next one I have is a little bit of, uh, I think it's an easy question for you, But is it possible to constantly make good work at a holding company? What are your thoughts here on this subject, Jeff?
Uh, well, it's always possible to make good work. It's always possible. So there's that. Um, we often can get in our own way. There are as we know, there are way more impediments to getting something great all the way through than there are enablers of great work. And there's just kind of like a big dumbing down that happens at every phase. And I'm not even, I am not that guy who is ever looking at a client or the account people or whatever the fuck, like it's some kind of problem and the thing standing between me, the great creative, and my vision. I think, creatives are probably the worst culprit, starting with their name as creative, but then fundamentally never making anything new, never innovating anything, but just sort of like microwaving shit and protecting themselves with all of their references because they're really afraid to expose themselves and um, a fresh point of view on anything. Um, so yeah, we've seen holding companies, they have it rough because they all have to survive. They've got to sell shareholders on this. They have to have a new pitch and they have to convince shareholders that their holding company, which is doing the same thing as the next holding company, which is doing the same thing as the next holding company, they have to sell them on their different take on all the modern ways to reach consumers. So that's not an easy sell because at some level it's not true. And what happens is, I've never been comfortable selling untruths and half truths. So, when I say it's possible to do, it's always possible to do great work. It really comes down to the people involved and are they able to see something all the way through? I don't even know what great work is really. But I've always tried to make something that's new, that does create something like that does demarcate a period in time where, there was the world before this thing entered it, and then there's the world after it. And this thing made a dent. It had an influence. It affected things. It created something, and usually it creates culture. And even if the thing, even if the Velvet Underground's first album only sold 1,000 copies, what they say famously about it is that everybody who bought a copy started a band. So I see the children of high life everywhere. Because that was new, and it didn't even start out that way. I got to be honest. Like when I started with that campaign and the scripts and just writing it, it had a really kind of smart alecky copy, like sneering, smug copywriters topspin all over it. And then our oh dear God, did I lose you? Sorry, I had a call coming through there.
No, I'm here. No worries.
Give me one sec. I got to clear that off.
Yeah, no stress.
Yeah, so those scripts started out being kind of really smart alecky and then so the planners, which was a new position back then, Jen Coleman, who was working with Claire Grossman, bless her memory, they came back with verbatims from, real dudes. Um, and I read the verbatims, and I knew exactly who the guys were who were saying this stuff, and I know exactly how they think, and I'm like, I was just I it gave me an opportunity to be honest with myself and realize, like, these things I've written, if they go in the world, they're not going to resonate with these guys. Those guys won't give a shit about this. This is like I don't know what this is. So let me let me refocus here, and I'll take some of the same intention and same material, but it's gotta it's gotta do something a little more real if it's gonna land, you know?
So those verbatims really helped you out then, trying to you got into the mindset of who you're talking to. And you
Yeah,
realize, oh yeah, that makes sense. I know exactly that's your buddy that, you went to high school with. That's where he's at today. Or, that's your neighbor. You know exactly who you're talking to.
100%.
Strategy. That stuff does help, right? So what's your view then? Like, do you still do that same process, get verbatims, like good strategy, good research about the consumer? That's probably doesn't change, right?
Um, well, everything's a little different. And kind of a similar thing happened on Arby's because, you know, we all get, like, trapped in the vault of our own minds, right? Everybody, clients do. We all do. As human beings, we do. And so when we hear that we're on the hook to deliver something, a lot of us in insecurity and paranoia, like, race to try to get to the answer. Like, just boom, here's the answer. There's a problem, here's the answer. We're very uncomfortable with wading into a process, and very uncomfortable admitting that we don't know anything, and very uncomfortable in a state of not knowing. It's scary, right? Um, and it's, the creative version of that is, here's the brief, race to the answer. So, trapped in the vault of our own minds, we all have our own biases, prejudices, things we think we know, ways that we conceptualize the world so that we can move through it. Um, and on Arby's, I remember, thinking one way about it, but again, this crew, uh, Ellery Luce and Caroline Hitler with two T's. I hope she changed her name.
Yep,
And
yep.
um, and Kelly Holly, they went on a road trip throughout the Midwest and visited Arby's everywhere and spoke to people who go there and eat their food. Now, I can tell you, I can promise you, I had nobody in my life who met that description, right? Who would cross the transom and go into an Arby's and put that food inside their bodies. I had an idea about Arby's and Arby's people, but until they went on that road trip and filmed everybody, only then did I, as a human being full of insecurity and bias and trying to, like, race to the answer, only then did I realize, like, I mean, I don't know, I just really connected with these people. Like, for them to go to Arby's meant something, and the people who would do that, I didn't I had no concept who they were until I saw those verbatim. So anyway, I don't, on every project, get a chance to do that. I mean, like, we don't even, there's no budget for that. I mean, there's everything, every project's different. Like,
Yeah.
the
When
the
I
CEO says, I have this idea for a telehealth company. It needs a name, it needs a look. Here's what it does and sells, and I need to be live in 6 weeks. There's no time to talk really to people, or you parallel path talking to people, but you got to come up with something called hymns, just by kind of going inside and understanding how how dudes relate to dick pills and hair loss. It's like, it's also scary.
so you worked on hymns.
Yeah, I named it, came up with the way it had to angle in with a like crack team of people.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. It looks great. I mean, that's super well known. And then now there's the hers, hims and hers.
yeah, hers was I had nothing to do with.
Yeah,
Um,
but if you help with the name of hims, it makes sense that for the next step to be hers. So,
I guess it makes a kind of sense, although hers, yeah, hers is a word. Hymns is not.
yeah.
So hymns is a neologism. It's just like it's just that one degree of unfamiliar but familiar that hers doesn't have. And but whatever. I mean, the CEO of that company, Andrew Dudham, uh, bless him, man. He's like made all the right decisions, and that thing continues to kill it out there. So
Yeah. Yeah, but you were able to tap, I mean, on those tighter deadlines where you don't have the opportunity to do that research, you kind of have to then pull into your own human experience, right? And like, at least you're acknowledging that you have those biases and those prejudices and innately within you, you have that awareness that'll probably help you expand your own thought process. Is that accurate?
well, yeah, and like the we none of us in any of what we do, none of us are given ideal circumstances, or very rarely. We have
Yeah.
this we have this in we have this concept of like the perfect project or the perfect flow or the perfect circumstances that are going to create a thing. They don't exist. So we don't get judged on how well we do under ideal circumstances. We get judged on how well we do in real circumstances. And the thing to learn to do is to make a virtue of liabilities. So, like in the case of hymns, 6 weeks from we just have a business idea to what the brand is and standing it up. Uh, that showed up in the packaging. There's no time to overcomplicate it, so it gets to be super clean. It's Apple. It's not fucking Microsoft. Um, so there's always you know there's always a way to flip something into a benefit.
Mhm.
Even though it seems at first glance, or given our biases, it seems like it sucks and it's a problem. But who can say what is good and what is bad? We only know that in hindsight.
That's right. That's right. Can you run us through the circumstance with Dos Equis and like share that story? Because I've heard it, I've talked about it, and like, was there research? How did you guys come up with that idea? Were you involved with it? Can you just give us like the abridged version of that scenario for everybody listening? Because it's something that they should study, and while it may seem obvious to us or well known to us, we want to make sure the new generation learns about it as well.
You're doing the Lord's work. Um, Bless you, Gino.
Thanks, Jeff.
Um, yeah, I mean, what to say? Yeah, I was fucking involved with it. Um, it's my campaign. It's Carl Lieberman's campaign. It's Brandon's campaign, and Caroline Credit and Mary Perhatch were utterly instrumental in getting that sold through. As was a client, Lisa Fenning, who is now CMO at Bacardi, and a client named Willem van der Hoven, a very charming, tall Dutch man who basically shouldered getting that all the way through the family-owned organization of Heineken. And Heineken, uh, they kind of don't listen to anybody who isn't a tall white man, ideally with a Dutch last name. So I had, I mean, I don't know how to, or which story to tell around this, but like when you're given the task of leading a thing called Euro RSCG Mesner Viter Berger Schmetterer to the promised land of greater creative work and a return to their creative roots. You know, you look at the portfolio of dog shit work that's being done and dog shit clients doing the work, and you have to pick your battles. And thank fucking God, Dos Equis was somehow miraculously on the roster of things that anybody there was privileged to work on. So I thought, like, well, it's a beer account. Uh, I've done a lot of beer work at that point. Surely this is going to be an amazing creative opportunity. And like, we probably spent 18 months and one totally like B minus campaign for Dos Equis, trying to sell something through that would like kill it rather than just, you know, reflect the world back at the world. And I had given up hope that we would be able to sell anything through on Dos Equis. Like the most interesting man in the world was like the 17th thing that we sold through. And I guarantee you, I promise you that each of the 16 things that preceded it would have absolutely killed it for them. It was kind of only owing to our ability to continually to, you know, solve things, and a change on the client side of the people who were in charge that enabled the most interesting man to come into being. And so, yeah, I don't, you know, we're all your listeners, they're going to face points in their career when they're just like, fuck, I cannot get through this wall. But like, you know, there's always a wall. Like, so don't imagine that there's not a wall. There's a fucking wall. You can't just do something cool and put a swoosh on it. That's not how it fucking works. Um, so, uh, so in short, this ultimately was one of those things where the client, being Heineken USA, because that campaign had to get sold all the way through Heineken USA, North America, Heineken North America, and all the way through the then not Heineken owned Mexican brewery. Like they had an arrangement where Heineken was distributing Dos Equis in the United States, but it was two corporate entities trying to get this outsider niche, premium import Mexican beer to have any kind of traction in the United States. I mean, if anybody's had a more difficult sell job out there, I want to know about it.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't know about the two different corporations at that time having to sell that through essentially two times.
Right. And so the client had a brief, and they had this like insane, you know, it's one of those briefs where it's like, our consumer is this, and it's like legal drinking age to blah, and he's well heeled and experienced and well traveled and sophisticated and all this complete wishful thinking horseshit like you see in so many briefs. You know, that's really where most brands miss. They're trying to, or they're not even trying to appeal to people. But what they have to do, regardless of what they endeavor to do, is they have to appeal to people. And to do that, you kind of have to know who and how people are. So you can't have briefs like that. Like, here's this fiction that we would like to say is our consumer. Well, this at the time, very young planner, the aforementioned Caroline Credit, she went out on the street in New York and was asking guys like, basically she was sent out to corroborate the brief and utterly failed to. And she came back scared to talk to the big mean creative director because she couldn't corroborate the brief that's who the target for this beer was. Instead, she learned that like to a person, every guy who would be in the ideal demo for Dos Equis was shit scared. And his biggest fear was to start a conversation with a woman in a bar, in a drinking situation at a party, and run out of things to say. So far from being like well heeled and experienced and suave and all these things, they were shit scared and most feared being boring.
Boom.
So
You take
so
that,
yeah.
you now you know that. Now you got something to work with. My question is that's kind of opposite of what they were talking about. But so when the idea came together, selling that through, most interesting man in the world, going off the greatest fear of being boring potentially. Like, how did you sell that idea through then?
I think I think how it got sold through is probably the least interesting aspect of
Okay.
it. For your guys and girls, the most interesting thing about the most interesting man is that if you squint, it is one of those. It is one of those bodies of work where that mock the brief that gave rise to it. So it's like you get a brief like that, and you're like, "Well, this is fucking absurd." So if you take it seriously and put it out there, it's going to be fucking hilarious. So yeah, all right, we'll give you that, no problem. And it is hilarious. It's like, uh there's a fine line between drama and comedy. Like Dr. Strangelove started out as a very serious piece about the potential horrors of nuclear war. um And when Kubrick started rolling film, it was just like, this is fucking hilarious, you know? So it's a comedy. So anyway, that brief in its like delusion was hiding a great absurd premise. And, there were other things that really had to work. Like, if you do this, you're giving the modular nature of it gave people who ran out of something to say in an awkward social situation something to talk about. Like you could talk about that guy. You could talk about your favorite line from the campaign. You could, you know what I mean? And just by holding it conferred some of the interestingness, like you were part of something that other people still had to maybe race to get on board with.
I love it. Well, Jeff, then if looking back at your career,
Sponsor Perrier, by the way.
what does that brand say to you? What do you think is how does that convey you? You're drinking that.
I like bubbles.
Like bubbles. You're fancier? You're fancier?
What?
I don't know, but I feel like those who have bubbles are fancy and interesting.
Oh, I'm fancy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm the fanciest. God knows.
Look, so I was going to wrap this up here by saying, like, if you could talk to your younger self or maybe your kids, if they're going to go into advertising, what would you tell them looking ahead to thrive in this stuff or to get out?
Well, interestingly, my kids, they both just graduated, one from college, one from high school. And when, especially for the older one, the prospect of a summer internship somewhere came up, um, I didn't even think for a second to install them as I could, being who I am. I didn't think for a second to install them in an ad agency. I did think to install them in post production,
Hmm.
specifically at now Make, but what was Rock Paper Scissors, because that's a play place. That's where creative people get to make stuff, or if you will, make stuff. Um, and compared to that institution called an ad agency and what it's set up to do, which is essentially waste time. I don't want my kids to learn about it. Like there's no juice there. It's just such a hollow entity. But what we do need is, we need creative people just plying their sensibilities and taste to making stuff, of every description. And so there's that.
Yeah. It's a big take there.
I don't know. I mean, I was not somebody who admired advertising from afar and wanted to be a part of it and break in. I fell into it backwards, like a lot of people do. Certainly people used to do. It's a little more intentional now. And between me coming into the business and now, there was like this whole rise of portfolio schools and a systematized way to get past the gatekeepers, etc. I would say, I would advise my younger self to do the scary things, because for me to have, I won't go into the details, but I had to leave what I thought was a nice situation and circumstance in pastoral North Carolina and move to big bad New York City and thrive or starve on my creative wits. And that was a very, brave thing for me to have done. And it's like the last brave thing that I've done. As soon as I, by turns, found myself in a position of some kind of where I could do things, I fucking vapor locked and held on to it at all costs. Like the high life stuff got Letterman's people calling me to join the show as a writer. And I was like, no, I got to hang on to this. I don't know what this is yet. I said no to so many things, directing it, just to try to hold on to this only thing that I had created from my very improbable upbringing, where I was, I could be a doctor or a lawyer. That's it.
I can't believe you got offers to write for Letterman. That would have been awesome, Jeff.
I don't know if it would have been. I mean, I had a buddy who had taken a job, and just the idea of being jailed in a windowless room with half-empty takeout containers on the coffee table and a bunch of bros trying to out-funny each other, like that didn't sound great. Letterman made, the Letterman show made it look easy, but it just didn't look like my idea of a party.
Yeah.
It looked like too much like work.
Yeah.
And I'm an avoider if there ever was one.
Oh yeah. I'm an anxious avoidant. And that's what they say nowadays.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely that.
Yeah. We're both that.
Yeah. I'm super good at it. If you need any tips on how to anxiously avoid anything that you have on your docket, I'm definitely the one to ask.
I've got the worst follow-up to that. How can people reach out to you if they want to say hello or, have them look at your portfolio, anything like that?
They can find how to get in touch with me on our website, dasfavorite.com.
Nice.
Because I got off social media effectively. Like a lot of people don't know what I'm up to. And, part of me wants to jump back on Instagram and chop it up with the world. But I think a better part of me knows that that's just going to be a disaster. And I have too many things to do with my remaining time.
Yeah. Well, I respect that. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and a lot of value for our listeners here. So I wish you all the best in your remaining time. I mean, I'm assuming that's an agency life and an ad life.
I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
This is an ad adjacency. I mean, my skills can certainly be employed on behalf of brands, but
yeah,
not always easily and seamlessly. I do mean it. I'm happy to help such as I can to anybody who seeks it, but I'm a terrible emailer. So I'll flag that some people might be reaching out through that channel.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Gino, thank you. Godspeed. Good
Yeah,
luck.
appreciate you.
All right, you too. Bye.